welcome everyone. Really appreciate you making time and connecting with us this afternoon to talk about SAMPE Student Chapter grants and how to apply for them. We'll have a few slides we'll walk through, and hopefully we'll have some time for question and answers. If you've just joined, this webinar is being recorded. I would like to request for you to drop in your name and a student chapter you're affiliated with, or a university you're affiliated with, or even the professional chapter that you're coming from. So thank you again for joining in. Let me start with some introductions. Ashley, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Ashley Tracy. I am your SAMPE North America Executive Vice President. My day job is an engineer at the Boeing Company.
Thank you, Ashley. John, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi, everybody. John Masasi. I'm the North American Secretary this year. I am a professor at Western Washington University, and I have helped students go through the student chapter grant process a number of times. So happy to answer some questions today.
Okay, thank you so much, John. And everyone, I'm Sana Ilyas. My day job is at Oak Ridge National Labs, but I also serve as the Vice President in SAMPE North America. And as the Vice President, I oversee student activities. So I'm quite excited to have Ashley and John join us today and walk through some overview of how student chapter grants work and take questions. So we want to give money away to you, so please apply. So let me start sharing my screen, and we'll try to keep it quick, and hopefully we'll have enough time to address questions. So okay. Can you see my slide all right? It's quick yes would be fine.
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Okay, great. Thank you so much. So we already went through the introductions. If you're just joining in, please do drop in your name, your university, your student chapter, and a professional chapter you're affiliated with. So as we mentioned, this particular webinar is focused on the chapter grants that SAMPE gives out each year. And we are hoping that this is helping existing student chapters to grow their educational programs and also bring in additional education programs into their portfolio. Of course, we want you to stay aligned with SAMPE's mission and goals. Typically advanced materials, manufacturing processes. And each year, the vice president in the North America Executive Cabinet is responsible for reviewing these proposals. They're also responsible for, if they would like to get additional help, form a committee and have them review it. So, and we always get help from the cabinet if there are questions, and staff is always there to support us. So let's walk through, you'll see a lot of this information later on as well. So, but if you have questions, please make sure that you're typing it in the Q&A, not in the chat. We'll try to address most of your questions, and if we cannot take them now, we will reply back by email. So what would make you eligible to apply for these student chapter grants? We want you to be coming from a student chapter, and CAMEX typically is scheduled around September, October timeframe. So if you're a new student chapter and you've just received approval, that should still be before the November 1st timeline. So that gives you enough time to start thinking about how you would use this money in your student activities for next year. We would love for your student chapter to be in good standing, so 4 students or more, and have active memberships. And this particular grant, we would encourage students to apply for it. Of course, sit down with your faculty advisors, but it would be a good idea that you start working through these write-ups, and hopefully this is just one of many proposals you write. What are the requirements for the chapter grants, right? So it goes up to $1,000 per chapter, and we have a 2-page limit. So we want you to be very clear and concise about give us an overview of what you're trying to accomplish in the next year using this grant fund. And if you are a chapter that's not new, it's existed before, and you've applied for these grants, we would like to know what have you done with the money that was allocated in the previous year. Very important, please get signatures from the student chapter chair, the faculty advisor, and also your liaison in the professional chapter. Timeline, very, very important, because we want to make sure that you are aware of this and you submit it on time, so we're able to accept your grants and review your proposal. So please note, December 15th is your deadline. Each year it's the same, does not change. And there are more details in North America practices, but this webinar and this presentation should give you highlights of what the timelines are. So proposal submission, typically this would be the time that you would start writing it, and or at least having discussions, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks draft and have the final submission by December 15th or before December 15th. By February 15th is when we would have notifications go out. This will come from SAMPE staff, and you will be notified if you're selected. And if there's any discrepancy, then those conversations will also happen. And Ashley will talk a little bit about it from previous year, what she observed. And March 15th is when the funds are being distributed out. Okay. So let's move more into proposal best practices. And Ashley, if I may request you to step in and talk a little bit about this, please.
No problem. So, where some of these things come from best practices, the first one is outlined in NAP 4.3, which is saying that if there's multiple funding items listed, they should be prioritized. So, that's not a must statement, but it's definitely a best practice to include that. The other best practices here about suggested sections to include, these are really, and you'll see some more on the next slide as well. This is really coming from after I had the opportunity to review a number of proposals last year, and where I think there could be improvements to make it really clear to the the people who are reviewing these proposals to ensure that you have met all of the requirements of NAP 4.3. So executive summary, definitely not required. But I did see a number of proposals that had them, and it was really nice to have that kind of first look, kind of bottom line up front, what the student chapter is looking for before breaking everything down in the proposal. Also, where there's breakdowns in the proposal and where the money is intended to be used, including a table is a really great tool to use, and I noticed a number of chapters did that, so I really thought that was also a best practice. So just included an example here. Certainly it's your proposal, want you to own that and do it in the way that makes sense to you. These are really just suggestions to help strengthen your proposals.
Thank you,
And
Ashley.
then, yeah, no problem.
For the executive summary, can you share some insights, like one paragraph, two paragraph, any other
Oh,
tips on that?
great. Yeah. I would say in general for, since especially because these are limited to 2 pages, so my recommendation would be one paragraph and really a short paragraph, something probably on the order of, I'm just going to throw it out there, 4 to 6 sentences. Don't feel that is a hard and fast rule at all. If you need to have 7 or 8 sentences to communicate that, go for it. But you want to make sure that it's just very short, concise, summarizing high level what you've got in your proposal. This is also a common component to proposals in general. So it's a good skill set to start building now, so that when you go out into your careers, whether academia, government, industry, wherever it may be, having strength in writing executive summaries is very valuable.
Thank you, Ashley.
So yeah, so some additional best practices here. It's not required, but including pictures or including graphics, figures of things that you guys have done in the past, how you've used your student grants. Those are really great to see. Also could be potential for the future for, you know, us to work with you guys and see if we can highlight your chapter and use some of those images on our website. There are it is a requirement. So you see here where it says suggested sections. It is a requirement that if you have received a student grant in the past, that you need to outline what the most recent student grant funded in your chapter. I have seen that addressed in multiple ways in the proposals, but again, this where I'm suggesting a section here to just make it really clear so that you don't have to have that person who's reading the proposal kind of find that, make it really easy for them to see that you're meeting each of those bulleted requirements in NAP 4.3. So that's why I suggested, or why we were suggesting that one. And then of course, if you have other student chapter activities that you want to highlight, maybe it's not part of your proposal or part of what was funded by a grant in the past, no problem. You're still welcome to highlight that and you know, be a little braggadocious and show all the great things that you have been doing to us. We're absolutely interested in seeing that. So you're most welcome to include that. Again, not a requirement. And I do think one thing to point out is that 2 pages is limited to text. So if you include, you know, images and things on additional pages, that's acceptable.
Thank you, Ashley. So,
And go ahead,
yes,
Sana.
go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna then ask, I don't know, John, being a faculty
Mhm.
advisor and having lots of opportunity to see various proposals that your students have pulled together over the years, are there any best practices or additional items that you would want to highlight?
Yeah, uh, absolutely. I think you highlighted the past activities report really well, and I think it it's been said a couple times. It's a 2-page limit on the proposal, but the past activities report you can expand on a little bit more. So if there's things that obviously your proposal needs to cover what is being asked for, but your past activities report can add some of those additional things that your chapter has done in the past year. I think for the faculty advisors on the call, you know, one thing to remember is that a lot of students have never written a proposal before, and this might be their first dive into that. So it's always good to work with the students to really make sure they understand what the requirements are, um, what the goal of writing this proposal is, and how to do it in an effective way. And some of those best practices we just discussed are going to help with that. The Another thing that has happened in the past with our student chapter is we waited a bit too long to get it done, and just make sure you give yourselves enough time, especially because one of the requirements is having your professional chapter read, review, and sign off on the proposal. So you want to make sure you give them enough time to do that. I recommend to my students at least a week. And then the last thing I want to highlight is, you know, it's intended that these student chapter grants are written by students. So we want the faculty advisors to help advise, but the goal is to give students an opportunity to get practice with this and learn how to write a good proposal.
Thank you, John. Are there any specific questions you can remember from your students related to how they're drafting this grant that you want to highlight? Maybe the skeleton or which type of activities to add to the proposal?
Yeah, I think I really liked the best practice earlier of a table. I think it really helps students organize their thoughts and the activities that they want to highlight and request funds for. And sometimes without that, it can get lost in the text. So, um, you know, trying to think about being concise with your wording, but also clear with what you're asking for.
Great. Thank you.
I don't know if I can think of any others off the
Yeah.
top of my head right now.
That's fine. I'm sure we'll have some questions and we can maybe come up with a few more discussions on that. So thank you so much, Ashley and John. And the last part, like I mentioned, so each year we have a change in the cabinet and the vice president, you'll have an incoming vice president come July, right? Last year it was Ashley Tracy. So thank you, Ashley, for putting that table together and highlighting, what worked, what didn't work. Maybe if I can have you step in again and talk about, why certain chapters did not receive the full funds. I think that would be a question that a lot of people may or may not be aware of. Can you please address that?
Yeah, no problem. So last year, probably many of you experienced, and many student chapters did not get the full funding request of $1,000 for their student chapter. And the reason for that is because I am very much an engineer. So when I went to the requirements in NAP 4.3, I basically created a column for each of the requirements and then went through each proposal multiple times to determine whether or not they met the requirements. If you didn't meet all the requirements, then you did get partial funding. So that's why we really wanted to ensure that everyone understood what the requirements are, and then also share some best practices so that you make it really easy for the person who's reading your proposal or the people who are reading your proposal to see how you've met each of those requirements. If you make them go fishing for it, sometimes it might get lost, kind of like John was saying, things can get lost in the text, and we try to be really, really careful. And of course, if people were to come back and say, oh, Ashley, we had that in there, you missed it, then of course we'll revisit that. But yeah, so that was ultimately why folks did not get, why there were many chapters that did not get the full funding, is because they just didn't meet all those requirements as outlined in NAP 4.3.
And I can tell you this, being on the cabinet, Ashley spent a lot of time and she brought it up to us in the cabinet as well. We wanted to make sure that we are being very fair and we're trying to give that money away because that is assigned for student chapter grants. So please, try to review these requirements and see how best you can comply with it. If you have questions, please do reach out, but we'd love to have you get those grants and have more activities. So I'll pause
Oh,
here.
and one
Go ahead,
quick other thing
Ashley.
that I want to add, actually, that it was very much a one-off, but this is, just as a reminder to everybody, this is a SAMPE Student Chapter grant. So you want to make sure that what you're asking for in your proposal is for the benefit of the SAMPE Student Chapter. So there was one proposal last year that was benefiting, another club, and that is also something that we are not going to be funding. We're funding SAMPE student activities explicitly. So there might be related things, but just really focus on the SAMPE side of it, and that's what the funding is intended for.
Thank
Sorry
you,
about that.
Ashley. No,
Thanks,
no,
Donna.
it's important that we mention all of this, right? We're trying to give most information out so people are aware of it and then they are drafting their proposals accordingly. So for the rest of this year, up till June of next year, I'm your vice president and I would be overseeing student activities. So feel free to reach out to me. Kathy Shat would be your other point contact on staff. And come next year, again, there will be a change in the cabinet. So the new vice president would become your point contact. But I'll pause here and see if we have any questions from the session. I see a lot of people put in their, okay. Wow, we do have a good participation. So this is great. Do we have any questions? Okay.
There was one question in the Q&A asking about will the slides be released? And yes, the information from the slides as well as the recorded webinar will be posted to the SAMPE North America website in the student chapter grants site.
Yes, thank you, John. We can open it up and see if there are any other questions from the group.
There was also a question that I saw come in. Do we allow extensions on the December 15th deadline?
Sadly, that's something that we are not able to move. We've given enough time with the fiscal year, right? I know it's close to the finals, or some of you have already had finals, but that would be a firm date. And each one of us on the cabinet, we follow what the North America practices or the governing documents of SAMPE dictate. And this is a timeline that has been put into the North America Practice 4.3, which talks about student chapter grants. So December 15th is not something that the submission date would remain December 15th. That cannot be moved. Thank you for that question. Any other questions from the group? Okay, I see one more come through. So you showed an example of attending a SAMPE conference. What other types of club activities qualify? John, would you like to take this question?
Sure. I mean, as Ashley mentioned, any activities that benefit the student chapter will qualify. In the past, students, I think there is a focus just due to the timeline of this grant for the SAMPE conference, but students have asked for other things in the past in terms of creating activities for other students to get them interested in SAMPE, like, for instance, creating a STEM event. Also, just other activities to help support your chapter, like buying pizza and things for your chapter meeting. So I think as long as it's clear and it's clear that it's for your chapter, they qualify.
Yeah, sometimes students will want to do things like fundraising events, and they want to make things, whether it's a crab gauge or a belt buckle. And so they're seeking funding for those materials to get their students hands-on experience in the lab. There's and like John said, outreach to other students, or whether those are university students or younger students, say high school or junior high, and trying to do outreach and get people excited about materials. So really anything in kind of the materials and process realm, and would be a benefit to SAMPE and a benefit to our students. Does that help? Well, I guess it's an anonymous attendee, so you don't have to answer. But if you would like more examples, please feel free to ask for more.
Sure. I see a question in chat from Dawood asking for an updated chapter roster. Dawood, are you asking for how many students are in your student chapter or under your professional chapter? If yes, that's something that should be okay. Thank you. So that's an update that should go out from staff to each of the professional chapters. I believe we send it out to the an active list. I think we'll check with staff if this is something that is being shown in the list that is being given out to you or not. I'm sure that this is information hopefully we are capturing, and if we are not, we'll make sure that we try to capture that information. Thank you for that question. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so Kathy did mention that we share active and expired, so that would be a good way to just reach out to the students whose membership did not get renewed, and do reach out to your professional chapters, see if they can assist in any financial way to renew their memberships, if that's a concern. But your professional chapter is your sponsor for the student chapter, so please do lean on your professional chapters. And I know Ashley can speak to all the activities that happens in Seattle chapter for students. So that just be mindful of that and do reach out to your professional chapters. Okay. So I do want to thank everyone. Okay, I see one more question. Is the advisors meeting during SAMPE 2025 decided? Yes, no, thank you for that question. So I think there was a detailed email that went out last year from Ashley, and when she was the VP, the cabinet had made that decision looking at all the different student activities and contests that we have during SAMPE Spring Conference. We suggested that we bring in faculty advisors so they can see what the students are, how they're performing, and we can have more engagement from the faculty advisors in our SAMPE Spring Conference. So yes, we look forward to seeing you at SAMPE Indy next year. Great. So I know you've received a few requests from Kathy. Please do reach out, and this is specifically to the faculty advisors. Thank you to everyone who's filled in the information, and if you've not, this is a request. Please do fill out your information. We want to have the most up-to-date information about you so we can reach out to you, and maybe we would have some opportunities that are just specific to you. We would like to share it with you as well. So I do want to thank everyone who was able to make time and join this webinar. And as John and Ashley had mentioned, we will post it onto the website. And you should also see it on the SAMPE YouTube channel. And I look forward to reading your proposals and then taking it to the cabinet. So thank you once again, and have a great day. Thank you. Bye now.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.